Welcome back. Well, spring has sprung and so have our allergies. The arrival of spring means beautiful blooms, buds, and leaves emerging on the trees. And with those blooms come pollen, which is why today we have an expert to give us some sneezing tips and more info on the trees you should know to be pollen smart. Thank you so much for joining us today on Weather Now, Jess.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, I'm excited about this because I'm one of those who've been sneezing, and it's been a rough time for us. We're here in Southeast Texas, and I feel like pollen, gets a bad rep. It makes us sneeze. It's kind of messy. Is it really as bad as it seems, or is it more beneficial?
Pollen is part of the flowering process of trees. So every tree is that produces any type of fruit, whether it be an acorn or a little winged nutlet or anything like that, is going to produce pollen. Your major pollen producers, primarily the conifers, get a pretty bad rap. Luckily, we have kind of gotten past the cedar fever. The ash junipers or the mountain cedars typically are done right about this time of year. Now we're facing the oak pollen, the maple pollen, and the pine pollen.
Okay, those are the primary ones. I have noticed here in Southeast Texas, obviously we have a lot of oak trees over here. Our counts, they were super high a couple of weeks ago. It looks like they have dropped a little bit over the last week or two. Is this usually the time that, they, end their kind of pollen season, or is it kind of we're still in the midst of it?
It depends on tree species. Some trees need certain weather conditions, like dry and windy weather. Actually, will initiate a pollen blast coming from especially like oaks. But for the most part, we're on the tail end. So if you've made it through this far, light is at the end of the tunnel. We should be okay moving forward. They should continue to reduce over time.
Okay, good to know. And this was really interesting. I was reading more about this, and there's female and male plants, trees. Tell me a little bit about that and how it makes a difference when it comes to how much pollen they release.
So a lot of trees do have the male and female parts on the same tree. Some trees do have specifically male and female trees. So when selecting trees for your landscape, primarily, it was selected for the male plants because they wouldn't produce fruit, which wouldn't create kind of messes underneath the trees. But that means that now we have a ton of male pollen-producing trees throughout our landscapes. Selecting some of those female, parts of different tree species. Granted, you might end up with some fruit, but that fruit can be beneficial to wildlife and even us as some of the fruit that we can actually enjoy, watch wildlife and things eat the fruit, which is beneficial. So selecting for the female varieties can reduce the amount of pollen that your trees are producing.
Okay, very interesting. And my last question for you, what are the trees that are pollen smart?
Pollen smart trees, magnolias are pollen smart trees. Some of our native varieties that really some of the smaller trees, obviously the smaller the size, the less amount of pollen that they're going to create. So kind of your mid-sized to smaller trees are going to produce less pollen because of sheer size. But like I said, one of my favorites, the magnolia, doesn't produce a whole lot of pollen and provides a really beautiful flower that smells great in the spring. So that's one option for a homeowner that's looking to put a pollen smart tree in their yard. But again, the smaller trees are typically produce less.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. And I am a magnolia fan as well. Beautiful, and we luckily have them here at the station as well. Thank you so much, Jess, for giving us all of that great information and supporting us through this high pollen time for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for the time.
Well, property